Since parents at Soweto's Rathebe Junior Secondary School shut down the school, they demanded the removal of the principal, who they accused of chronic absenteeism. Parents also complained about collapse in infrastructure, and a caretaker principal was then appointed while investigations were ongoing. Our senior reporter Aviwe Mtila is at the school this morning to find out if anything has changed. And Aviwe, good morning to you, colleague. I mean, from where you stand, has anything changed since the last time, of course, we spoke about the story and the many challenges faced by the school?
Morning, Tumelo, and the simple answer to that is not much has changed. It was on the 19th of July as schools reopened for the third term when we were here because parents were shutting down the school. They wanted the principal gone because they say that she is never around, and they also complained of the infrastructure woes, where we do understand for 900 learners plus, there's at least 2 toilets which are in disgusting conditions, to be quite frank. Now, just to get a sense of what has happened since then, I am joined by Member of Parliament, Dr. Ntombi Khumalo. Dr. Khumalo, thank you for joining us at ENCA.
Thank you.
Let's touch on the issue of the principal. She was not suspended, but a caretaker principal was put in place for 14 days while investigations ensued. What's the latest in that regard?
So since the 19th of July, not a lot has happened. So from the day, a task team was put together to do some oversight and to try and drive the changes that needed to happen. And yes, the school principal has been off since last year in March. She has been ill and she hasn't been at school since. So that obviously does place some leadership instability in the running of the school and the operations, including the financial management, also resulting in impacting some of the financial things that need to be done in that regard, because she's not there as a signatory. And for some period of time since July, there hasn't been an acting principal till the end of July. So for 2 weeks since we were together, there was no leadership in the school, and of course you see it in the conditions of the school as in the condition that it is currently.
Let's talk about the condition. You did an oversight visit just on Monday. What are you seeing, and what's the Department of Education saying on the state of the school and the promises that were made?
I think we are so accustomed to hearing promises, which is what we've only heard. I came here on Monday to see the kind of changes, because I do know that money was paid out under 2 million rands to do and refurbish the infrastructure, to fix the toilets, and a number of things. The number of chairs and tables in the schools also a shortage in that regard, but nothing much has happened. The department is quite frankly happy with the condition of the toilets, and happy with what the 2 million, just under 2 million has done, and we will do a walkabout if that's okay with you, so you can see. So the learners still to date have no toilets to use. There's literally only 2 toilets for 941. The taps that are working in the school, only 2 points for water, access to water for the kids in the school. So really nothing much has happened in the school. The gutters, a lot of safety issues, the building also deliberate, kind of like deteriorating as well. So there's a lot going wrong in the school. There's a lot that hasn't changed since the promises that were made, and the department seems to just be comfortable with that.
Let me spare you the burden of going inside and bring in Peter Twalo, who is part of the SGB. Let's find out from the student governing body as we walk inside the toilets, Dumelo, just what has happened from their side. We hear almost 2 million rand has been spent on infrastructure. Do tell us more. What's happening?
There's nothing happening actually. Invoices say there's 1,938,853 that has been paid out for the renovations or rather re-infrastructure of the school. But as you can see, toilets are leaking, but money is gone. So I have a question actually. The 2 million that was paid out, what was it for?
That's a very good question. And when you point these questions, do you actually ask the school? Because it's quite filthy here, Dumelo, the stench coming out of the toilets. I don't know how it's even inhabitable at this stage. But what does the school say? What does the Department of Education say about the conditions here? 2 million rand spent and yet nothing has changed.
To be quite honest, on day one, when we had a meeting, a sit-through at the staff room, we had a chief director, Dennis Makwakwa, who came through and actually agreed that they have dropped the ball somewhere. So it just goes to show ukuthi babona ukuthi benze izinto ezirong, and still nothing is changing.
And where to from here? From the student governing body's side, really, I don't know whether you to blame as well for having the lack of accountability for the learners here.
Well, to be quite honest, it's Africanism and leadership. We fail to lead as Africans. We rather want to show people that we're in leadership instead of running the position that we've been appointed at. So for as long as we do not gather and understand that there's money allocated to the school, in accordance to the learners. So since this school has 941 learners, last year the school got 1.2 million. There's a school behind this, which is Itembalihle, that gets 1.2 million too. There's a school further down, which is Slelekele, and that gets 1.8 million. So, rough estimation is Z17. That's not the rough estimate. There are 17 schools in Orlando. But how are we ending up in a situation where toilets cannot be fixed? If we are rounding off the total amount, a circulator per annum, Orlando, we are looking at about 22 million. How do we end up in a position where a school is like this?
That's a very good question. One that we hope to pose, of course, to the Department of Education in Gauteng. Last time we were here, they were here too, Tumelo. Promises were made. We are told contractors would be in place to fix the conditions that you see in the toilets. Now, we understand 1.9 million rand has already been put in place. We don't know what happened to the money. Hopefully, we'll get those answers as we chase now the Department of Education to find out what has happened at Job Rathebe Junior Secondary in Orlando East.
And those are the challenges that, of course, pupils continue to face in this country. Money allocated, but not used for what it's meant to. And now they're in the middle of the exams, and they have to, of course, as you mentioned, they use inhabitable toilets. We'll, of course, keep track of this story. And thanks to my colleague, senior reporter Aviwe Mtila, for keeping track on those updates for us.